morning and welcome to the National Newspaper Publishers Association's Let It Be Known. Prosecutors in Memphis have begun dismissing cases in which the 5 officers who beat Tyre Nichols to death have played a part. Some believe the officers' misconduct, including falsifying police and arrest reports and perhaps lying under oath, could lead to hundreds of cases being overturned and still hundreds more where prosecutors cannot proceed. We will discuss that this morning. Also, in New Jersey, they are taking a totally different path than Florida when it comes to teaching U.S. history. The Garden State is adopting and expanding the program, the very program that Governor Ron DeSantis down in Florida has rejected outright. We'll have details on that. But first, the World Health Organization convened an emergency meeting yesterday, and you can read about this on blackpressusa.today.com, the Washington Informer, and other NNPA member papers. This is really serious, folks. It's an outbreak in Africa of one of the deadliest diseases known to man. This story is vital because the WHO fears that it could spread globally, much like the coronavirus. We will discuss that with Andrea Carter of the Cincinnati Herald and, of course, Oshia Boyd out in Indianapolis. Oshia, she formerly of the Recorder, right?
Yes.
All right, because what's the Star, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Indianapolis Star. I've actually picked up that paper. I'm gonna tell you something. So I was driving one day. Before we get to this, I gotta say this. I feel like Arsenio Hall. Remember Arsenio used to start his show, and I was driving in from Cleveland, but I was driving from California through Oklahoma, Indiana. I went through, and the cop stopped me, and I think he was he told me that his father-in-law ran that paper at one point. This was like in the 90s, though. But anyway, I digress because we got Oshia. Oshia makes me digress.
Okay, put that on me.
But Oshia and Andrea, seriously, the World Health Organization got together an urgent meeting yesterday afternoon. There's an outbreak in Africa of one of the deadliest diseases known to man. The leading health body brought experts from around the world to discuss how to ramp up development of vaccines and therapeutics for the Marburg virus. There are growing fears that the world could be caught off guard by the currently untreatable infection that kills almost 90% of the people it infects. The virus, considered a more dangerous cousin of Ebola, has killed 9 people this week in Equatorial Guinea, in the Central African nation's first outbreak. More than a dozen others are believed to be infected, and symptoms, guys, began to show up abruptly, according to the World Health Organization. They include high fever, severe headache, chills, and just outright fatigue. Muscle aches and cramping pains are common symptoms. Others can include jaundice, nausea, abdominal pain, can't even speak, and diarrhea. So the CDC says too that another sign is that around day 5 of having this virus, a non-itchy rash on the chest, back, or stomach usually occurs, and the clinical diagnosis of Marburg, also doctors will have trouble diagnosing this. This is really it's scary. I mean, we're still in a lot of ways battling COVID, Andrea and Oshia. This is scary.
I would say having I worked for a newspaper in Abilene, Texas, who had a direct effect from the Ebola when the Ebola broke out in Africa. Because one of the people who was working over, the doctor who was working over there, he got Ebola and came home to Abilene, and we got to hear his story. And he said, and he received one of the new treatments for Ebola, and it saved his life. But you could just see the effects, the ravages on his body, even though he was up and walking and talking. The fact that we've gone through COVID, now we see Marburg. I think forewarned is forearmed, and we have to be careful. I mean, I'm still using hand sanitizer whenever I'm out and about. After I come out of a store, I'm hand sanitizing.
Yep.
I mean, it's you don't know where the germs are. We don't know who's coming in and out of the country. We don't know whose family or relatives are here visiting. I think this is a forewarned, forearmed situation, and we have a lot of people who even don't believe in the vaccine for COVID, and they're spouting all kinds of stuff. But I think I'm gonna sit up and take notice. I'm gonna be very careful because, like I said, I have a father who's 89.
Yeah, yeah. Mike V writes in that from YouTube that it doesn't help that the U.S. government operates a bio lab in that area. In fatal cases, Oshia, death usually occurs between 8 and 9 days after the onset of the disease and is generally preceded by severe blood loss and hemorrhaging, as well as multi-organ dysfunction. This is serious.
Yeah, that doesn't even give you time, like you said, to figure it out. Doctors don't even know what's going on. 8, 9 days, you don't even really you're probably not going to the doctor immediately. You're probably thinking of something else, so you wait it out. It just seems like Mother Nature is really just sick of us,
Yeah,
and just really, really trying to find a way we're just destroying the earth, and Mother Nature's like, you know what? It's time for y'all to go. So, I mean, we're having one thing after another. I mean, we've always had illnesses crop up and pop up, but it seems like it's just bam, bam, bam. We're not catching a break here, and we don't believe it either.
yeah.
We don't believe it. There's also this fatigue. There's also
Yep.
this idea of, oh, it's over there, it's not here. So we don't pay attention.
That's what they said about COVID.
Yeah, it's the WHO so it's the WHO. So we don't care about the World Health Organization. There's all these things in play, and there is a bit of dramatization sometimes. We were all about what, monkeypox a few months ago, and then that kind of died down. So it's like, oh, okay, the media will get us all worked up about something, and then nothing's going to happen.
Yeah.
But there are those times that the media gets you worked up, and you need to pay attention, and it's also about helping you to prepare and be aware so you can take precautions.
Right.
So there's this balance, and we have to understand how human nature operates.
Well, this Marburg virus, here's the other part of it, the appearance of patients. So you can kind of tell if you have the Marburg virus by their appearance is described as ghost-like, according to the WHO. That's why I jumped on this thing yesterday when they announced they was having this urgent meeting about this virus. They said your eyes, deep set eyes, expressionless faces, and extreme, fatigue. Ghost-like is what caught me. It's just one thing after another, and like you said, and on the more, well, I guess you were serious when you said Mother Nature, but on the seriously, it's just that we have done so much to this planet Earth. The Earth is crying out, isn't it?
Yes,
I think so.
It's crying out, but I think also, we don't know what virus is a cousin to a much deadlier virus. And I think, isn't Marburg the cousin to Ebola?
Yes.
You said? And I mean, if you remember Ebola, you're bleeding everywhere, especially from the eyes and the nose and everything. And you had to be careful because that blood was infected. And if it got on you, you were infected. And doctors who were totally protected and covered still got sick. So, it's something that we're going to have to watch among everything else that we're watching and take precaution.
David Youngblood says the tragedy is the U.S. has so discredited science that we will lose lots of people if Marburg crosses the water. It originated, by the way, they first found this virus in 1957 in Germany, Marburg, Germany. Is why it's named that. Scientists were working on a project there, and they became infected with it, and it spread to another part of Germany, and then into Africa. How did it get into Africa from Germany is unexplained at this point, but we kind of get an idea, right? So they want to say it's unexplained. We know how it got there, but 150 billion, Mike V's point here, for Ukraine, nothing for social infrastructure for Black folks, though, nothing to protect us from things like this. You would think after the coronavirus, this is like, to your point, Oshia, okay, forewarned is forearmed, and we should be paying attention. But here's the thing, I don't see a whole lot on this Marburg virus. So are we really paying attention?
No, I don't think we're paying. I mean, I have my level of respect the um for the bioscience space comes from the fact that when I was business editor with the Trentonian newspaper, I covered it. I got to go to one of their conventions,
Mm-hmm.
saw firsthand what they're working on and how serious it is to protect ourselves and find solutions to these anomalies that are these viral anomalies that are popping up. I shouldn't say anomalies, but at that time, that's what they were because they're still investigating. They're still going through and discovering. And yes, it costs a lot for research and development, but in the long run, as you can see, the more they improve their research and development, the faster they can find a vaccine and a solution to contain what's affecting us. COVID proved that. Um, so I take any warning with a grain of salt, and I just say, okay, what am I doing to protect myself
Mhm.
and keep me happy, keep me healthy, I should say. And then how can I protect my family? And
Mm-hmm.
anytime I put it under be forewarned is forearmed, be aware and keep on stepping. And that's what you have to really do in this day and age now. Because
Mm-hmm.
we're in a world of discovery, innovation, and especially when it comes to biosciences,
Mhm.
we need to be more vigilant
Right.
and more acceptable to what they're doing. The fact that there are 3 pharmaceuticals working on this right now is I'm happy for it. How
Mm-hmm.
fast they're going to be able to find a vaccination for it or a solution to contain it, we'll just have to say.
Yeah, and
But we have been working on this in, when did you say, 1957?
1957 when it was first, and
Yeah,
then it was then all of a sudden it fell off the radar. Why?
yeah, yeah. They should have been working on that. I think there's like you said, Andrea, a lack of respect for science. There
Yes.
definitely is a lack of respect for science in this country. There's a lack
It's
of
kind of
respect
like
for education, period. But everyone was an epidemiologist when COVID came. Everyone knew how COVID spread, what it was and what it is not. And people hadn't been in high school for 30 years, and they
Yeah,
all knew how all this worked. And there's
yeah.
also the anti-black bias uh, to
yes.
anything that comes out of Africa. So when we
Well,
see
and
it comes out of Africa, it's like, oh yeah, that's because Africa, and then you list any stereotypes about Africa. So I'm going to be curious to see if the actual history is reported that it actually came from Germany, and that's why it's named Marburg. I'm going to be
right.
curious to watch out for that.
Well, Austin Cooper, my man, he says Africa unfortunately will once again be blamed for a deadly virus that originates in Europe. And Power 96 is right along with Austin. Power 96 writes in from YouTube. Now it makes sense. Marburg was created in Germany, and now Africa will be blamed for it. And that's the thing. You're right. I had the chance to go to Africa. I went to Africa in 2019 before the pandemic. We went to first South Africa and then to Malawi. And going into Malawi was an eye-opening experience because people want to put down Africans and how they live. And sure enough, we go into Malawi and there was folks living in, I mean, it's many of them living in what we would describe as huts or whatever. No real modern conveniences or whatever, but I found some of the the happiest people on earth, and the kids, the parents, the relatives, and how close they work together. It was just inspiring in that sense. Here, it's every man for themselves.
Hmm.
There you see the whole that whole saying about it takes a village. You actually could feel and see it when I was in Malawi. Here it's all right, kids. See you later. Do whatever. Play your video games.
Hmm.
It's a whole different thing there, and the structure. There's much more structure there. I found anyway in my observation. So Africa just gets a bad rap, but we know why. We know why, and most of it is not true.
Yes.
So moving on, but we'll keep an eye on this Marburg virus. It's so important because, again, we know, as they say with everything that happens, it what disproportionately, say it with me, folks, disproportionately affects African Americans.
Yes.
Everything. There is nothing that is bad that doesn't disproportionately affect
Yes.
African Americans?
Yep.
Yep.
Nothing.
I mean, if you think about it, as much where they have put so many things that are environmentally dangerous near the Black community, we are more aware of what the environment can do to a person or affect our health more so than many other people. I think that's the reason why you'll see certain folks support the environment and the green projects and things like that, because we see what happens to our health. We have
Yeah.
more asthma cases, we have more cancer
Yeah.
cases, we have a lot more going on, but we understand the environment affects us because of what you put in the air or around certain people,
Yeah.
when you live near something. And I think with Marburg, again, it's just another warning. We have to be vigilant
Yes.
Yeah.
and just be aware of who and what's going on, and not believe the stories of, well, now that people claiming that the vaccine causes COVID and everything. And I was just like, when do we get past the speculation and the brouhaha to
Yeah.
get to the truth?
Well, it's funny you mentioned, ironic you mentioned the environment, because it was none other than our own Dr. Ben Chavis who, back in the 1980s, who really put into the consciousness of America and the world this idea of environmental racism. He coined the term environmental racism, and so and here we are, 2023, and Andrea's spot on with that. The Four Times writes in that a term we don't hear anymore is chemical warfare. We were warned of it for years, but when 2020 hit, we haven't heard that term because we are living it. And Paris Brown says this is so including the 5G towers. They give off a lot of radiation. Paris Brown of the Baltimore Times. I have to distinguish them because I have my own Paris Brown.
Hey, Stacey, would it be better to say, instead of chemical warfare, science warfare that we're going through right now? I won't even say medical science warfare. I'm just going to say science warfare. Who do you believe? What do you know? Who can you trust? It's more, I mean, chemicals are part of it, but I think we have a science warfare going on because we have it. It's all around us with everything that we do. Who do you believe? Who do you trust? Because you got the down players because politically it benefits them. You have the other people supporting scientists because it benefits them, and people caught in the middle be like, who do you turn to? You
Right.
feel like a bouncing, like a tennis ball going over the net each time, going back and forth. So
Well, here's a question, and I guess I can go to you, Oshia. Um, are Black people more prone to believe conspiracies than others?
I don't want to say they are more prone because a lot of people believe conspiracies. I mean, I think that's across the board. But what I think is we have this um, anti-government, don't trust government because we know government has done experiments on us. We know government has kept the truth from us. So I think we are more susceptible to maybe just raising an eyebrow, and then that leads to some belief in conspiracies. I often hear and see people, Black people, who are saying go on listen to conspiracy theories, but I don't think they know they're really parroting right wing conspiracy theories.
Hmm.
Oftentimes, they're saying the same thing that people on the right say, um, and they're bringing that to Black people, and then Black people run with that. I saw a lot of Black people talking about the eating the babies and the pizza
Hmm.
parlors, and I saw a lot of Black people talking about sacrifice. A lot of people are talking about, oh, you're sacrificing so and so. They sacrifice. So the Illuminati. I don't hear white people talking about these kind of conspiracies, right? I hear white people talking
They
about
just talk about Kennedy still being alive and Elvis performing somewhere in Vegas or whatever.
I think it might be the different type of conspiracies that we are prone to believe and cater to. That might be the difference. It might be the different type of conspiracies.
Because you don't
And
hear
the
us saying,
different type of
"Hey,
conspiracies probably actually do more harm to us, disproportionately affect us.
listen, Jay Menz, actually, that's the word I was looking for. Jay Menz says, he writes in, this would be biological warfare. That's the word I was looking for,
Yes.
biological.
oh, that's
Um,
good. That's good.
yeah, and David says, that disinformation and misinformation are eating us from within. Rome, anyone, and Mike V is advising us to look up James Cummins, white nationalist from Maine who got access to nuclear material to bomb African Americans in Boston from Foreign Policy Report. And of course, David, you know what they say about keeping secrets from Black people. Put it in a book. That's a shame, David. Listen, David. Why did I read that, David?
But I have to kind of agree with David. He's not totally wrong, because we do more research watching YouTube videos from people who've never read a book. and then we're the 2020 the big thing was do your research, and your research has been nothing but listen to people on YouTube who don't know any more than you, but because they're on the internet you believe it, and because they have a show you believe it. We have a lot of that going on, but I don't think that is I think that is all of America, but again, disproportionately affects us because we have so much we need more information. We need to be on the ball. We need to do all these things like Andrea talked about the environment. We need to be proactive. We need to care about these things. We're not big environmentalists in the fact that we think of that as tree huggers, but the environment is disproportionately affects us. It's a detriment to our health in so many ways. So I think the action is where we often lack.
Well, Power 96 says the latest Black conspiracy is about Rihanna. Power 96, Rihanna and I spoke. We cleared that up, and the rumor and the conspiracy can stop. It's not my baby. Stop the conspiracy. We had a heart to heart.
All right, the Navy's coming. The Navy's coming.
Okay.
Anyway,
coming for you.
Anyway, no, they got upset with what's that actress? What's her name? White actress. My aunt says I'm weak right now. This actress who said ASAP was she was like fawning over ASAP. What's the very popular actress? I don't know why it's slipping my mind. And the Rihanna army went in on her, talking about how fine he was and this and that. They went in on her. Don't be calling out Rihanna's man.
Hey, you better leave him alone. Leave him alone.
But he was happy Super Bowl night watching his lady perform high up in the air, pregnant, which is hard to believe. But I mean, don't be negative about something.
Andrea, don't get me started on the Rihanna haters. We will be here. We will be here all day if you want to get me started on it.
I was one of those people staring at the screen like, what in the world? Oh my God,
I was pregnant. Just concerned that she was too high up, and good Lord, if she fell, I'd have had a fit. Me and ASAP would have been over there together.
Your woman,
mourning together.
Well, I mean, luckily for me, while watching Super Bowl, I was watching Twitter, and I saw the video of them strapping her in to the platform before everything got started, and how it was hidden by the coat. So I was like, okay, all right. So, but I didn't know she was pregnant. So
you did, Power 96. You see what you did? He writes in on the show, and we got to have him on the show. He writes in this stuff, and gets us off track like that.
Okay, we got to get back on track. Okay.
We got to get back on track.
All right, pull back. Okay.
So, and on a serious note, though, ladies, in Memphis, Tyre Nichols' death is putting Memphis police under scrutiny in more than one way. Tennessee prosecutors say they will conduct a review of all the cases handled by the 5 former police officers who have been charged in the beating death of Tyre. A attorney just this week said that he was in the courtroom when prosecutors started dismissing cases. So they already started dismissing cases, and cases that by some accounts can easily be made. However, their testimonies and their statements, that written statements and verbal statements, have damaged any case that have come. So they're going to start releasing folks. They're going to start have already started not bringing or completing cases that were already in process, that these guys had a hand in either the arrest or the arrest report. This is a monumental disaster for the city of Memphis.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised.
No.
I am not surprised because I mean the credibility of the police department is on the
It's shot.
line.
It's shot.
Well, the credibility of these officers are just totally shot.
Mhm.
And I mean, it's unbelievable. Whatever good work, even if it's a true case, and they worked it properly, and they have proof that something was committed, they got to dismiss it because their testimony is tainted. And I think they don't the implementation of I want to say the effect of their actions in the death in part of the death of Tyre Nichols has so far reaching length, it is
Yeah.
hard to believe when it's going to stop. I'm surprised the police chief has not been asked to step down because she created the group.
Yeah,
I
and
mean,
and understand this, as Power 96 says, it's not just those five, and I was going to mention this. The entire Memphis department has to be investigated
Yeah.
now, and that Scorpion unit. So that Scorpion unit consisted of more than just those five too, as well. And so now we see. But here's the thing, Oshia. So they have to really, like he's saying, the whole department now, you can't trust anything. So isn't this an opportunity now? We keep talking about police reform and redo it and start. But Barrington Salmon always says, start over, burn it down, and start from the ground up. Now is an opportunity, isn't it?
I think so, because you have to think this is pervasive in police culture in general. They're not the only police officers to ever be found that their cases they worked had false information, or that's not unheard of. We've heard of this many times. What I think what needs to happen, because so many people only think it happens to Black people, don't care because it happens to Black people. But this is an issue that is affecting crime, affecting court cases. So how then do we? It's bigger than this. I'm trying to get my wording together because it's bigger than this. It is. Now you have, how many cases have to be thrown out because of falsified information by any police officer?
Hundreds.
This happens all the time. Now you have, but now they've been exposed in this situation, but it happens everywhere. And then you have to also think about, now this family's going to sue. They're going to sue the city of Memphis. They're going to sue the police department. This happens all the time.
But here's the problem too, Oshia.
That's taxpayers.
There
so
you go.
Americans need to care. That's what I was getting to my point. Americans need to care because now it's affecting your tax dollars. We have this idea that, it's just Black people, they're criminals, so it doesn't matter. It does matter, because every time they sue and they settle, you're paying that cost.
You are paying.
So we have to get not only Black people on board to care, we have to get white people and everyone else in America on to care about, because you're paying for this, you're footing the bill for this, and they need to understand that, instead of being complacent and throwing their hands and saying, well, it doesn't matter, I don't care. If you care about your tax dollars the way you say you do, if you don't want your money spent on this or that, if you're always talking about my money, my tax dollars, I'm a taxpaying citizen, well, then you should care about this and you should want this to end, because it affects all of us. It's not just about Black people. It's about everyone's being affected by this. And I think that's something that we're not thinking about. We just had a case in Indianapolis where a Black man was shot in his.
Oh God, we talked about that yesterday. Yeah. That's awful.
So I just wrote about that in my latest column. And of course, I get people telling me, how I'm racist and it's his fault and all that stuff. But you should care, because you're going to foot the bill for that, because the family's going to sue. Yep.
And it's going to be, and Ben Crump is going to come. And when Ben Crump comes, we're not talking about $2-3 million, right? George Floyd's family, rightfully so, $27 million. This is the range we're talking about. And I agree with everything you just laid out there, Oshia. And Power 96 says, instead of the citizens paying, that money should come out of the police retirement fund. Then you'll start seeing some change, won't you?
Definitely deal with that.
I think I have to say that, Cincinnati, we went through our own version of this a little bit in a different way. With the death of Timothy Thomas sparked the unrest in 2001, where we got the collaborative agreement. And within that collaborative agreement, we got the police department had to go through a change. 20 years later from that, we are better for that change. That our police department, yes, there is a culture there, but we have not everyone is like these officers in Memphis.
Right.
We have a very good, credible police department who cares about the community. Do little stuff happen? Yeah, no one's perfect. But the fact that we were able to affect change to a certain part, that we're not seeing what we saw 20 years ago in Cincinnati. Now, that being said, that doesn't mean it can't happen again. But right now, we have been better for that change from 20 years ago. I think everyone needs to go through a process like Cincinnati had with the collaborative agreement. Put put the police department through something, put the community through something. We have a high standard. We expect everyone to live up to that. And when
Right.
it doesn't happen, then we need to peel it back. We need to problem solve it, and look at it and say, how can we make it better? How can we make the culture better? And I think it does a disservice. The police departments across the country are doing a disservice for not speaking up for what is happening, because these cases are being thrown out in Memphis. That means they're putting criminals, alleged criminals
Alleged.
back on the street. That means more things are going to occur where it is now safe will not be safe again because these people are back on the street. And I think that's a safety hazard. They're putting the community at risk. They're putting everybody at risk because the police department can't curb themselves of what they did. Now they have a credibility issue. And I think that the community, the politicals, and everyone needs to demand not only an investigation, but maybe go through a collaborative agreement where they are going to do a problem-solving solution to look at everything and resolve it. But then again, on a national level, all the FOPs, all the trade organizations for police and security need to take a look at themselves and take a look at the culture and decide, are we going to be the best? Are we going to just keep the status quo?
Yeah.
And they need to admit that, yes, we all are good in our own way, but the culture is causing issues. And eventually one day, when the governments are sued so much and the revenue stream is dry because they got to pay off so many lawsuits, that's when you'll see change.
Well,
Get them in the wallet.
That's what's going to happen. It won't be we're going to do it because we want to be better. It's going to be done because we have to.
Because the taxpayers' monies, not the insurance company, taxpayers' monies are going to pay off lawsuits. And it's going to happen more and more.
That's what the status quo now, right? Taxpayer money, you sue, taxpayers have to pay that bill. The officers, and that's why you hear people talking about qualified immunity and things of that nature. And the best idea here, as Power 96 puts it, is to come out of the police retirement fund. Until those things happen, like you are saying, it's just not going to happen. And when you have like Mike V writes in, right, from YouTube, he says, I felt safer in Rwanda, a country that went through the worst genocide in our lifetime, than I do in this country as a Black man. I don't think he's overstating it. I really believe he feels that way. And I believe he's not the only one.
Well, I think, again, being a police officer is an honorable job. It is an honorable cause and a career. At the same time, it also brings out the worst in people at times, which we see an example of in Memphis and around the country. And I just think that everyone needs to take a step back, look at themselves, and say, how can we prevent this from happening again? But the police officers have to step up and admit there is an issue. And until you have them come out and say something and then start policing themselves, it's not going to change.
I think it's the same as police officers, same as in a lot of ways politicians. Politicians run, they campaign, and they say, I'm going to lower your taxes. I'm going to give you better health care. I'm going to give you this. I'm going to give you that. And they probably, most of them probably intend to do just what they said until they get there and they see how the system actually works. These police officers, I want to be a police officer. You know, you're 18 years old, you want to be a police officer. You want to be a police officer. And I think you have every intentions, many of them, most of them have every intentions on, enforcing the law the right way and doing what's right and not having to kill anyone or whatever. And then they get in there and they see how the system is, the whole system. I am totally on board. Like I said, I mentioned Barrington Salmon a couple of times. Burn it down, start it again, do something different, and don't just start what we already know. Because as David mentioned earlier, it's a slave catcher mentality, because that was why it was created in the first place.
That was the point I was going to make. People need to know the history of policing, and most people don't know the history of policing. So when you get into something, even if you have the best of intentions, when you get into something that there's a culture based on slave catching, slave patrolling, there's already anti-Black bias built into the system, no matter what. Because America's anti-Black bias is built into the system. So when you get into something like policing, even if you have the best intentions, you're going to see people cut corners. You're going to see. One of my favorite shows is Blue Bloods. Everybody's not like the Reagans.
Oh yeah.
Everybody's not out here like the Reagans. People are
right.
not like Jamie trying to hold everybody accountable and get on everybody's nerves. You got the hotheads like his brother, not Jamie.
Mm-hmm.
So and you don't have a Frank Reagan as a commissioner. So we have but that's the ideal, right? That's the ideal that exists. When more times than not, we don't have that. We have more Dannys than we have Jamies.
Yeah.
Well,
Exactly.
I think, from my perspective, I have covered for the various newspapers that I've worked for across the country. I've gotten a chance to cover a variety of different police departments or see them in action. And like I said before, there are honorable police officers who do the job, who never pulled a gun, who care for the community. Then there's that percentage that go off the chain.
The bad apples, as they like to say.
The bad apples, I think
we're not
calling out the bad apples. They're not.
But here's the thing. Let's put that to rest for a change. I was with you on that too for a while, but let's face it. It's hard to find the good apples. There's so many bad apples. I think it's dominated because you go in there and the mindset changes. It's because for this to continue to happen, even with cameras we are seeing cameras, we're seeing cops get convicted, and it's still happening at a rate higher than last week, higher than last month, last year. This is a system where this behavior is encouraged, and especially when it comes to somebody who looks like us, it's more than encouraged. If you don't do it, then you got a problem. So when you see officers beating to death a Black man or kneeling on his neck until he's dead, or put him in a chokehold because he has a cigarette or allegedly has a cigarette, this is encouraged behavior, and it's much more of them who have that mindset than not. It's not about bad apples.
They're allowing it to happen. That's my issue.
Yeah.
The good ones are standing by and allowing it to happen.
Yeah. And because the good ones are fewer and fewer. It's fewer and fewer good ones. Yes, I know some good ones. At least I used to know them. They're not cops anymore. The ones I know, I don't know any current police officers. So I'm going to say that, I speak with no reservation. They're mostly bad. And it's, people can get mad, but they're mostly bad because this would not be happening on this scale if it wasn't so. This is ridiculous.
Well, we had an unarmed Black man, Herman Whitfield III, last year was killed as he was having a mental health crisis, and he was actually running from the police. The video shows he never tried to interact with the police in his home.
Oh, the one case you just talked about, what you're writing about, that case right there in Indianapolis from the other day with the video being released. That case. They are bad. How do you shoot into this car 30 times? This guy is sleeping. And then you're going to say he made a move toward a gun. You knocked on his windshield at 4 o'clock in the morning. He's going to move.
He's going to wake up. That's where that is where, like I was saying, why are we not stopping? Like with Herman Whitfield, he was tased and he died. He was held in a prone position when the orders say if someone's in a prone position and they could asphyxiate, do not leave them in that position. He was held there. When the emergency people came in, they were just like, hey, buddy, there was no sense of urgency to get this man over. I felt like when I watched the video, I saw the moment in which he died. How come no one there could see that he was dead? No one had a sense of urgency of get this man off of his stomach and on his back. No one rode him over. And there were a lot of police officers there watching and talking and just having a conversation. They were, and his mom was in the background saying, "Is he okay? Is he okay? What are they doing? You said no one would hurt." And they're like, "Oh, he's fine." How do you know he's fine?
How do you know he's fine?
He wasn't saying a thing, but they're having a conversation. They're trying to reassure. Those are the things that get people upset because we're seeing now the callousness, and maybe it's not callousness to them, but we see it as callousness. We see it as you don't care about this person. We saw those police officers in Memphis trying to make this man sit up as he was unconscious and falling over, and then tell him sit up, as if he can control his body if he's unconscious.
We got to call it out. We are the Black press of America. This is the Black press of America. We can't sugarcoat. We cannot afford to sugarcoat. We lose all credibility if we don't, as we say, speak truth to power. And the bottom line here is that this stuff, I didn't. A couple of years ago, Barrington kept saying burn it down or whatever. A few years ago, whatever. I was like, no, he's right. He's 100% right. There's no question. He's 100% right. And Mike V, like I said, look at George Floyd's situation. 27 complaints filed against Derek Chauvin. Lack of transparency to the public protected him from scrutiny. That's not a few bad apples. That's the whole tree. That's the whole tree. Exactly. I agree with Ms. Claudette Perry. We talked about this recently. Oshia and Andrea, changing the name of the department would be a good start. It's time to stop with the police department, right? Why not an Office of Public Safety? Why not just call it Office of Public Safety? Because then maybe that little piece, the mindset for some will start to understand that we're here to protect, not to kill, right? Public safety.
Yes.
That's what
it's
really
like a security guard.
Public safety.
It's about public safety and quality of life. It's about that. And I think that politicians, everyone has to go through an evolution, a metamorphosis, and you have to grow and change. And I think, like I said, Cincinnati went through this. The police department grew and changed, and we're better for it. And I think the rest of the country needs to catch up where Cincinnati is. Is Cincinnati perfect? No. I would be the first one to tell you. But is it better than what it was 20 years ago? Yes. But again, is it perfect? No. But I think everyone needs to go through what we went through. Everyone needs to have a collaborative agreement, especially when you have continuous incidents and where you need to examine what is going on and change that mindset. Now they're dealing with bias in the community. And, that's something that we also have to deal with within the police department, but also in the medical community, also in teaching and education. But I think it's a process. And I think, unfortunately, our national leaders within the law enforcement community need to take a step back and say, you're right. There's something broken within our culture we need to fix. And I think that they need to examine what was the thinking and theory and what Cincinnati went through to get to this moment. Everyone else is playing catch up to Cincinnati. And I think, everything's happening around us. Even the smaller communities around Cincinnati have had incidents, but in Cincinnati, we have not had an incident. And I pray to God that I'm talking of this up there will not happen. But anyway,
well,
but I'm just saying that everything you're saying is correct. But at the same time, I've seen the best. I covered the unrest 20 years ago, and I've seen the benefits of what we went through to get to now. because I left Cincinnati soon after the agreement was in place, and I came back 10, 11 years later, and I went, oh my God, I saw the difference. I saw
Well,
what growth
listen,
is.
I hope
So
that like you said, I hope that something changes. Put it that way,
yes.
nationally. David says, "Uh oh, the talk is verging on CRT," and that's where we going, David, because in New Jersey, Democratic Governor Phil Murphy said that his administration is expanding advanced placement African American study courses next year from one school to 26 in the state after that guy down in Florida, Ron, as Bobby Henry said, the Satan
Oh,
blocked the course from being taught in public schools in Florida. Governor Murphy's move comes about a month after the DeSantis, who is probably going to run for president, declared without citing any evidence that the course violates state law and isn't historically accurate. Governor Murphy cited Florida as he prepared to unveil the course expansion yesterday during a visit to a Newark high school. He says DeSantis is prioritizing political culture wars over academics. He said New Jersey will proudly teach our kids that Black history is American history. So kudos to Governor Phil Murphy in New Jersey. New Jersey, let me tell you, we just had a Republican state senator switch parties. He says, "I can't do this anymore. I'm a Democrat." Is exactly what he said. But this idea of teaching Black history, it's like Governor Murphy said, it's American history, right? You can't separate the two.
no. But
Black history is Black folks
you know what I find
built this
interesting
country.
is all the number of pictures that were taken during the civil rights movement, especially when um, our brothers and sisters were breaking down barriers, going into schools for the first time, and they had crowds behind them yelling and screaming at them that they didn't want them and other stuff like that. And now, so many years later, their grandchildren or great grandchildren are going like, "Is that grandma? What's grandma doing there?" You know, they're embarrassed by what they did when they were opposing change.
Mhm,
Um, and I think that mindset of, oh my God, I don't want to be blamed for what we did. Own up to it.
mhm.
Just accept it. It happened. Let's move on. We're better. We would be a better country if people stop being afraid of what history is. 1619 Project sparked a wave of, oh my God, that's not true. No, we didn't do that. You know what? Denial politics, unfortunately, is the rule of law right now. But you know what? What is held in secret always comes to light. And Black history has always been around for a long time. It's just that you never paid attention to it before until now.
Yeah, and the atrocities of slavery and what was done during slavery and even afterwards, people don't even really talk about the worst of it because you can't even stomach it. You can only imagine the worst of it. We talk about how cruel and vicious and disgusting, um, you know, it was, and those people were, and many still act that way. But I'm sure we still don't even know the half.
No,
Well, that's
I
a book.
mean, if you
That's a
read the
book.
slave narratives, go ahead.
Yeah, I was saying that's a book, the half that isn't known or wasn't known. I think that's the name of the book. Um, I really like what you said, Andre. I never thought about it that way. That people that lived in that era who are guilty now could be exposed, and they don't want people to know that was me. I never
Mhm,
Mm-hmm.
thought about that because it wasn't, because I often think like it wasn't that long ago. I
No.
think about like people are still alive. They definitely are still alive, and they're probably in some of these pictures and some of these videos. And now they have to answer to the question of their grandkids, and I never thought about that. I think we are definitely seeing a backlash to the second. I call it the second civil rights movement, but it's probably like the third if you consider Reconstruction. Um,
mhm.
we are
I
definitely in a backlash, and we are definitely in a movement. I think in some ways the momentum has slowed down because people are now going back to their lives and not paying attention. But I also think this is probably how it was in the 60s. Not everybody was on board, black or white. Not everyone was paying attention. Not everyone was working to make change occur. Um, you have a lot of black people who are against, who paired white supremacist talking points. And it was probably the same way back then when you look at history. So we are fighting this battle that we've been in before. Ron DeSantis, he's not a character we haven't seen before. He's all in colleges, he's all in the school system. He's like, you don't have other things to worry about in Florida that are, really affecting people's lives. But in his mind, this is something that is of the utmost importance because he's trying to affect change for generations. He's trying to make America great again. He's trying to keep status quo of this idea of this idyllic Leave It to Beaver America, Hazel, all the shows we watched that were in black and white. That's the America he's trying to get back to. That the America that never truly existed, but it's the idyllic suburban life of wonder years.
Yeah, I mean, because if you think about it, Leave It to Beaver didn't even occur until we got told a TV was created and some playwright wrote a script and made a pilot and put the show on. It was somebody's imagination of what is or what could be.
And that's what they're trying to create. They want that because they believe that's real. They believe that that's the perfect America. We're going to all sit around at dinner and drink milk
and control women. Women were housewives in that Leave It to Be the world. The perfect wife was the taking care of the house. She had on a skirt and an apron and everything. Come on.
And then when you think about even when the Dick Van Dyke Show came around and Mary Tyler Moore wore capris and the flats. I mean, that was a big to do, because that wasn't the image of housewives on TV. My point though is just that it's this whole idea of creating this America that never really was, but in their minds it did exist and it should exist. And we have to do it. We're going to get there by any means necessary. And we actually need to do a little bit more besides. We need to pay attention. We need to do more because it's happening in Florida, but things move. Things move, and if it's happening in Florida,
look what's happening in Mississippi.
There's a lot of bills. There's a lot of copycat bills, happening all around the country. Right now, Indiana is in this legislative session where our members are meeting. They have bills. They have a bill similar to the Don't Say Gay bill in Florida. We have a lot of bills attacking LGBTQ transgender children in Indiana right now. And some of those are copycat parroting, seeing other bills that they've seen elsewhere in the country.
Yeah, well, what's going down in Mississippi is unreal, given that we are in 2023. This idea of a separate justice system. We already have a separate justice system for blacks and whites anyway, right? It was supposedly mostly unspoken, but Mississippi said no. We just gonna make sure to let's put it out there, call it what it is, right?
Yeah.
This idea of critical race theory, again. New Jersey says that they will stand on the side of teaching our full history. That's what Governor Phil Murphy said. Greer predicts that 2024 will be a violent year in the U.S. Because we have the election, and President Biden talks a lot about one of his mantra is fighting for the soul of the nation, and this is what these people like DeSantis and these people down in Mississippi, they believe that that's what they're fighting for.
Yep.
And so, to Greer's point, it's going to come to a head. You got to believe.
They're both fighting for the soul, and both sides are fighting for the soul. What they believe is the soul.
Well, but I think what truly it is when you dig down deep, white America is scared of a country of where the minorities will be in charge. We proved that we can elect someone of color to be president and run the country. and
Can
they're
they do it
afraid of that
again, though?
power.
Andre, can they do it again? You
Yes,
think they can do it again?
yes, they can
The
do it
way
again.
the way okay, given the backdrop, the way that they have taken the Supreme Court hostage, right? The
Yes,
Supreme Court is really a joke, um, and the way that all these laws that you mentioned, paying attention, right, Oshia, all these laws that keep coming up in these different states that are going through because that Supreme Court has gutted, as David Youngblood puts in, that next up is civil rights. They're going to take that away, right? Or at least they're going to try. So you think about all the laws that they're setting in place to set all of this up,
yes,
right? So do you believe under that backdrop that they could actually? I mean, Tim Scott is going to run on the Republican side. Do you think that they would actually allow America to vote in another black person as
yes,
president?
especially when things, remember, Obama was voted in because America needed a saving hand. There was a huge mess going on from that last administration that needed to be cleaned up. And Obama stepped in when we had a banking crisis. We had the automaker, the car dealers, I shouldn't say the car manufacturers were in a crisis. There was a banking crisis. There was a huge financial crisis overall. There's a mortgage crisis, and it needed to be cleaned up, and no one wanted to touch it. And Obama stepped into it. What happened? Not only did he turn it around, we got health care. And I mean, and I think America, if you look at everything, when a country is in crisis, they will turn to the person that they want to go in, clean it up for them so they can blame them if something goes wrong.
Well, you know what? Here's the thing.
I mean,
But wait. Here's the thing, though. Okay, I don't agree that they will ever elect another black person.
Yeah,
But
I don't think
the thing about it is this. That's why, and y'all can come for me on this. But that's why, overall, Barack Obama's last 4 years was a failure for black people because
I think a lot of black people would agree with that. I think a lot of black people were very
that's exactly why his last because he had to know this, and with knowing that as the backdrop, that's where you use the full weight of that office to say, you know what, hundreds and hundreds of years, black people. I have no hate against any other people, Asians, Jewish people, this, that, no hate whatsoever. But black people have not gotten anything from this government. They have not. They've gotten that 40 acre and a mule promise. They got this promise and that promise. Obama had the opportunity, mitigated.
yes.
4 years, the last 4 years particularly, to really say this is what's.
They were excited for the first term, and you gave them a little pass and a little leeway. But the second term, people thought there was going to be some action, and there was no action when it came to black people.
And you knew it was getting a reaction. You knew you was getting a reaction. What was the reaction? Donald J. Trump.
Yeah.
Right. And the rise of MAGA and
well, the reaction was not only Donald, was also Mitch McConnell.
Yes.
There were two. Mitch McConnell, who's still there, and then you also had Donald J. Trump. And I think was the Obama administration, yes, he could have done something, more than likely. But I think also being the first, you have to pave the way so that the second could come along and do what the first should have done.
Yeah, that's really good.
But I mean, you always have to remember, if you're the first, you're going to endure all the bull crap that goes along being the first.
He should have moved with the purpose, because
I don't think he could have believed that they would allow another black. If they did bring in another black president, they did elect another black president, that we probably a century away from that.
No, I don't think so. I think we're probably 10, 15 years away from it.
Mm.
Well,
I'm an optimist, but I also believe in the political power of the people. For example, in the Ohio legislature, there was a coup made in terms of picking the new Speaker of the House in the state legislature. The Republican Party's in control. They had someone picked out, and this guy was like, no, 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 I can be a better speaker. I was a Republican. And you know what he did? He sided with the minorities. He sided with the Democrats. And he won. And he became speaker. Now they're fighting over different things because they don't want to accept his authority. But guess what? He's still speaker.
But let me
And
say,
I
let me
think,
throw this out there though,
but so I
Andrea.
think that even the more you try to oppress and the more that you try to do to stop, the more the people, the minority voice is going to pick up, speak up, and act out. And I think it's going to happen again. I
Well,
believe in the people.
so let me say this: Jackson, Mississippi, is 83+% black. The
Yes.
mayor is black, 100% black.
Yes.
How does that? They're the majority. Yet the racists have taken over Jackson. They have created, as we said a little while ago, this justice system for white and black, this police department for white and black. How do you let that happen? And the mayor is furious. So this, to me, that's a little test case right there. And this is where they want to go nationally.
Yes,
and
but you know what?
Don't make no mistake. There are some Democrats who feel the same way as those.
Of course there is. I'm not even denying that, but I think at the same time, Mississippi will find out the hard way that if you start using my tax dollars for everything else, but you want to be separate and equal, then my tax dollars should only go for this. Don't even go for the state. Don't even go for anything else. And I think there's a lawsuit in there. You just have to be creative to sue the state, not on the obvious. You have to look for the unobvious to sue and get over on them. No one's just figured it out yet. Because in the long run, they're going to find it's more expensive to have two separate entities than one entity.
Mississippi, let me tell you something. That lawsuit, Mississippi is going nowhere. It's going nowhere.
I said you have to be
creative. That will be years in the making.
And so you're going to suffer for years. But let me say this, though.
We are in 2023, and we're still talking about the same problems that we had in the 60s, in the 20s. So I don't know that we're moving at a pace to see all this change occur because we're still talking about the same issues. I remember like 10 years ago, I watched an episode of Good Times as an adult. And I was like, dang, they're talking about the same stuff. I mean, we are. I love your optimism, Andrea. I love it. I hope that we get to where you believe we're going to be, but I just think it's taking us so long that we're not going to see it again. We're just not, because it's
let me say this, because Ms. Claudia Perry says, what could Obama do to erase 500 years of a system of white supremacy in 8 years, especially when the Senate told him straight up that their purpose is to make him a one-term president. And she says the federal government, this is definitely true, the federal government is a system of checks and balances. Presidents can't do much without support of the two houses. My problem with Barack Obama is, like I said, the last 4 years when he knew, he saw so much of this that we are living today. From his seat, his view, there are, and I know you can get some things, not all things, but you get some things done with executive orders. I just think he played it too conservative, if you will. I think
he didn't mind chastising black folk. He didn't mind chastising black folk from his seat and telling us what we were doing wrong, and Pookie, and telling us about cousin Pookie and all that kind of foolishness. We allow that. Why do we? And I'm not anti-President Obama. Don't get me wrong. I need to clarify that for the Obama.
Yeah, I just believe that he failed the last 4 years. I'm certainly not anti-Barack Obama.
I think we often don't think critically about our black leaders when we should. We should think critically about our black leaders because we put them on a pedestal and we're just so proud of them. We should think critically about Obama. We should think critically about Kamala. We should expect they would do something for us, because guess why they're there? They're there because we come out in mass. We come out in full force. You didn't vote for Obama. What's wrong with you? You better vote for Kamala. That's a girl. She's AKA. You better. So we are. Politics is transactional. It is I want something from you. I'm going to do something for you. We got to be smart about that, and we got to play that game a little bit better.
And on top of that, but you know what? The game that we have not played well?
None
PACs. No, we haven't paid. I mean, really, truly, if we want to leverage our vote and leverage everything, why isn't there a black PAC?
There you go.
Why? If we have not put our money where our mouth is, we want, and demand all this, but are we willing to pay for it? Are we willing to truly play the game to get what we want? And that comes down to money.
If we want to control our do you think the
no,
vice
yes,
president...
we do. Look, if we can spend billions of dollars on goods, our favorite sneakers, or whatever brand, we could create a black PAC to control our political dollars.
I'm being facetious because we know we're not wealthy by and large, but no, we have money to create things. It's a collective. It would have to be a collective.
Yes, and we have not done that because we have not backed up. We have not backed up what we said with our dollars.
Yep.
Do you think Kamala Harris, the vice president, is being in some ways or in a lot of ways or little ways, do you think she's being held back too much? Do you think she's being muzzled at all?
In what way? I don't think she's being muzzled. I think she is, being stuck being president of the Senate because of the situation that they had before in the first 2 years of their term muzzled her. That did more damage than letting her fly. She's flying now because she's no longer restricted by being near to help break a vote. She's broken more records by breaking votes as president of the Senate than ever before. I think that stymied her in a way, but I think behind the scenes, she's done more or trying to do more on certain things. And really and truly, personally, I would have had her as Attorney General. I wouldn't have had her as VP. But I think we would have gotten one with her running the DOJ than her being vice president. But that being said, I mean, really truly now we need to see, like, how can we shore up what is in our best interest going forward in this next presidential election? Is it Biden? Skip all the rhetoric. Is it Biden? Or is it whoever wants to be the Republican nominee? Who's going to work on our behalf, whether little or big, and where are we going to put our dollars? Well, that's the big issue right now, combating everything. If we want what we want, where are we putting our dollars collectively? Where are we putting our voting collectively? It doesn't matter what the parameters are of voting. Where are we voting? How are we voting? And who are we voting for?
Would she make a good president? You said Attorney General. Would she make a good president?
Down the road, yes, with more seasoning.
Oh, she is? I don't know. I'm not going to say. You
ain't gonna put me on the spot.
I think we hold her to this. What is she doing? But what do vice presidents do? Like in the history of vice presidents, is she performing worse or better? I think she's being held to a different standard than other vice presidents.
Absolutely.
But I think also
for obvious reasons. But I think I never heard. There's a clip that I see running around where Kamala's talking about she's not going to do anything specific for Black people. I never actually saw that interview, so I don't know the context. But I hear this.
Yeah, I've never heard of that.
I hear this. There's a clip that is going. I watched the clip recently. I never saw the interview, but I hear this constantly in the background. People saying, "Well, she said she's never going to do anything for Black people." So I have to wonder about what's her relationship with Black people. What is her relationship with? We know she prosecuted Black people. I have to wonder, and that's not to say you can't prosecute Black people when we're doing wrong. You should pay a price.
But did she go out her way to prosecute Black people?
These are the things I wonder. These are the things I feel like if she does, that's why I can't say for sure she's going to make a great president, because I don't know what is it that she's going to, if she's going to be another Barack Obama in the last 4 years who doesn't do anything with Black people. I have a problem with that, because presidents do things for other groups. We see that happen all the time. We see the other groups get change occur, and we're still waiting. We're still waiting for things to happen.
Well, I think also we have to take a look at the fact that as prosecutor within the system, she helped change a few things. I think, was it the best? No. But did she do something? Yes. I think if she's president, will she do something? Yes. But also at the same time, the Indian community was not, the Black community was not the only one celebrating her being VP. The Indian community was celebrating her being VP because she's half Indian. Is she doing
If she's
something special for
Indian,
India?
We have everything.
Right, but I'm just saying, in terms of groups celebrating her election to VP, we weren't the only ones.
so
Are
what
they
you're
getting
saying is
something?
that, so what you're saying is that she's not just listening to us; she's going to listen to the other community as well.
She's
So
listening
then,
to,
where does that,
I think she's listening to everybody, and I think she's getting the best part is that Biden is treating her the same way Obama treated him as VP. He was in the room with Obama all the time. If you look at Biden, Kamala is in the room every single day with him.
maybe
Anytime he's around doing something, she is
she needs
there.
to be for?
I,
Maybe.
I
Well,
think
so Claudette Perry says that we should think critically of them, but our conversations a few days ago was how Blacks are more critical on ourselves than we are on others. I think we need to be critical of ourselves, but we certainly need to be uh, calling others, especially in this climate we live in. We got to call out folks. We do a disservice if we don't. Um,
um,
we have some
I
nuts in the
think in
community.
politics we don't tend to be as critical and maybe critical but not hold accountable. I think that's the linchpin is the accountability factor
Mhm.
that we may talk amongst ourselves, but we don't hold them accountable to say, and that's any politician, that's Black or white. Anyone who wants our vote, we should hold them accountable. We
well,
should ask tough questions. We should say, what are you going to do for my community? Because everyone else does.
Mhm.
Asians ask what are you gonna do for my community. Hispanics ask what you gonna do for my. We're chasing the Democrats are chasing the Latino vote like crazy, and they're talking about what Black men haven't come out to vote. I mean, and we buy into that. So if they're, we have to be critical and hold them accountable if they want our votes.
Well,
Period.
we're
well, I
gonna
mean,
have to let it sit there. We are way over time, and
oops,
I'm so sorry that we are way over time. I'll just mention this last thing from Claudette Perry. Of course, she's the boss, so I'm going to let her have the last word. With Black leaders, we sit and wait for them to do everything, but Blacks need to work with them to make change happen. And thank you, y'all too. Y'all made a lot of change happen on this show today. Shia Boyd and Andrea Carter. Check them out. I'm looking forward to reading your piece, Andrea, on that situation in Indianapolis. And of course, you got to continue to read the Cincinnati Herald. What they do out in the Queen City is amazing work all the time. Thanks for watching. Let it be known. We will see y'all tomorrow.